Hey everyone, Jeremy Knauff here with another episode of the Public Relations Declassified live stream. And we're going to be talking about kind of a fun topic here today. Side note, I've had a few people tell me sometimes I'm a little bit too harsh on people when I do some of these breakdowns of the PR crises. So if anybody thinks that I'm going to change, if you think I'm going to turn into the kinder, gentler Jeremy, don't expect that that's going to happen today, because we are going to be probably even more unhinged than usual on this one because it's such a fun topic. So fuck it, we're going to jump into it. So today's topic is going to be about a breakdown of the WNBA transgender PR crisis. Now, this is something that I asked the audience about a few days ago. Some people were mentioning it to me and asked me to cover it. So I dropped a quick post a few days ago, I think about 5 days ago to be exact, asking if people wanted me to cover the WNBA's transgender PR crisis. And everybody jumped on. Everybody loved the idea. Everybody wanted me to do this. So there we are. In fact, I announced it a few days ago in a Facebook post talking about how this season is going to be absolutely lit, and that got one hell of a response. I think we had almost 3,000 likes, a few hundred shares, and a ton of comments as well. Some of the comments I really enjoyed. This one from our friend Brandon. It's popping up here. This is running a little slow, but he went ahead and replaced me with our friend Marco Rubio there. I don't think I look so good in shorts, so we won't be seeing that uniform. But I love that. Also had this little gem here. I told these folks these were definitely going into the live stream because they were hilarious. For those of you who are not sports fans like me, I am not a sports fan. I don't follow sports, but since this was a great topic, I had to cover it. But this is kind of a play on the Sophie Cunningham, or not Sophie. Is it Sophie Cunningham? Yeah. The Sophie Cunningham meme where she was pointing at somebody on the court. Great comments, guys. Al and Brendan, you guys absolutely killed it with those comments in there. I loved it. So give you guys a little bit of a background on this particular story. Not too long ago, the WNBA announced that they'd start letting trans players into the league. Now, management, of course, supported this. A lot of the coaches, whatever, but also the players jumped in on it as well. I do think that there's a bit of, I would say you could call it anything between encouragement to bullying of the players to have them come out and voice these opinions. But some of the players that came out fairly outspoken in support of this idea was Cheryl Reeve with the Minnesota Lynx, Natalie Nakasi, Golden State Buckeyes, Stephanie White with the Indiana Fever, and Alex Sarama with the Portland Fire. Now, the fans, on the other hand, did not support this idea. They were very vocal, very outspoken. The backlash was both instant and incredibly intense. Now, according to the WNBA, trans women are no different than biological women. Here's a fun little gem that I came across on social not too long ago with Gabby Williams talking about this particular situation.
I think it's trans rights right now is our new battle. That's what I think I was saying, that like the battles have changed. Like our intentions are the same, but now the environment has changed. We see trans people's rights being, stripped away from them. There's a lot of discourse around trans athletes and what they can compete in. I would welcome a trans athlete on my team or against my team anytime. I don't think it's a problem in the world. It's just another way to kind of attack trans people. We've seen players like Lasia Clarendon who stepped into that forefront and have been brave enough and courageous enough to kind of step up. So I guess that's the next battle that we have to fight as athletes.
Yeah. So that is, frankly, an absurd statement. According to the WNBA, as well as just trans activists in general, simply someone saying that they're a woman is enough for them to be a woman, right? The claim is that trans women are no different than biological women, that they have no physical or athletic difference. They're exactly the same. Now, we all know that this is objectively false, and we've all known this essentially since the beginning of time. But when this whole kind of, gender equality ideology started coming around a lot, there was actually a big debate about, whether or not a top tier female athlete like Serena Williams could outcompete a man, whether we're talking about an average man or even a less effective professional male athlete. So in 1998, Serena and Venus Williams actually played against the German male pro Karsten Brosch. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that name right, but this was during the Australian Open. And it was after both Serena and Venus claimed that they could beat any male player ranked outside of the world's top 200 players. Now, Brash ended up playing this in a very relaxed kind of approach. In fact, he actually smoked and drank earlier in that same day, right? So he was not really concerned about the outcome of this. He was not worried that he would not perform. And both Serena Williams and Venus Williams, who were absolute top tier female athletes, got smoked by this guy who was kind of just playing, right? He was not really trying to perform at his peak. Now, this was a guy who was not even in the top 200 when it came to men, and he absolutely demolished them. Now, after that particular game, challenge, whatever you want to call it, Serena later acknowledged in interviews, and you guys can go Google this, go look it up. There's tons of interviews of her on news or on late night talk shows or various other media interviews where she, following that, acknowledged that playing a male is always going to result in a quick defeat. And she did emphasize from then on that men's and women's tennis are effectively completely different sports, right? It's not even close to the same thing. So there is a massive competitive difference between men and women. This is an objective fact. Anyone with an IQ above 75 knows this. The only people who are trying to claim otherwise are the trans activists. Now, a few NBA players or former NBA players called out the WNBA's hypocrisy. So there was an article that our friend Jackson Thompson, great sports reporter for Fox News, ended up publishing about Enes Kanter's announcement. Enes Kanter Freedom is his whole name. I believe Kanter is the middle name. But both Royce White and Enes Freedom, or Enes Freedom Kanter, however you want to look at it, they both came out and announced their eligibility for the WNBA draft. Now, Chris, go ahead and drop that link to Jackson's article about Royce White and Enes, please. Drop that in the chat for everyone. Great article, covered this with a lot of depth. And if you guys are sports fans, you absolutely need to be following Jackson. Great guy. A lot of great coverage on all things sports. So he's the guy to follow for anything related to sports. But additionally, beyond that, Royce White was recently interviewed on Fox News about the topic as well. And I got to say, this is one of the funniest fucking interviews that I have ever seen in a really long time. So let's check this out.
Right now I'm just having a blast in my feminine era. I never thought that I was a woman. I've always trusted the science, and I thought I was a man my entire life. But after further review, strong look at my personal preferences, it would appear that I am indeed sometimes identifying as a transgender woman, and I think it's only fair I get a chance to play with some of my queens here in the twilight of my career, my athletic prime.
Well, and so exactly what you're saying, Royce, is just sort of pulls the curtain back on the lack of clarity in the WNBA's policies under Article 8 of their 2026 collective bargaining agreement. It's simple.
All right. I guess I got to cut a little bit short here, but I too am going to join in with Royce and embrace my queen era. And I'm going to declare my eligibility for the WNBA as well. Now, following these announcements from Royce and Ennis and some random French guy as well. I don't know how the fuck y'all do this with long hair. This is absolutely insane. Anyway, so when they announced their eligibility for the WNBA, now all of a sudden the position has changed. Now the WNBA is saying, well, those guys aren't really women, right? Before it was, oh, well, if you just say you're a woman, you're a woman. Now all of a sudden we need to put criteria on it. Now, following the announcement, Kathy Engelbert announced basically that they're doubling down on this. And they put out this big memo. We'll go ahead and pull this up real quick first. This was a tweet that Royce put up after basically being attacked by the left and the trans activists. He is saying, I've been misgendered and dead named by the Democrats for days now. This is what hate looks like, boo-boo. You really need to do some soul searching and figure out why you're still living in a cisgendered bigotry. Black trans lives matter. We have always mattered. We will always matter. If you don't refer to me as queen, you hate black women. Royce Weiss for U.S. Senate, Minnesota 2026. Slay, queen. Yes, slay indeed, right? Good times for all.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
Indeed it is. Sir, you need to calm down. All right, so that being said, the WNBA then made this announcement. Engelbert, like I mentioned earlier, she put out a statement. In that statement, a couple of things, which this comes from Jackson's reporting, which Chris dropped that link in there. By the way, Chris, if you have not already, please drop in the link to Jackson's author page over there at Fox as well, so that people can find all of his articles. But essentially, and this is paraphrasing, I don't have the entire statement because I'm not going to sit here and read a giant thing to you guys. But she says, we recognize that this is a complex and nuanced topic, and we will continue to have important conversations with all of you and the Players Association in the weeks and months ahead. Engelbert said in the memo, we also plan to convene additional discussions and offer listening sessions for any team leaders who would like to participate. Your perspectives and feedback are invaluable. I appreciate those who have already reached out to share their thoughts. Then she goes on to say, we embrace justice, equality, diversity, and inclusion, the statement read. Those are the values that unite this union and allow it to protect women's sports while creating transformational change. Hate, abuse, and demonization of any person or group of people, including transgender people, only fuel that fear, division, and harm. We will continue to have hard conversations, but we will not be used as political pawns. Now, you have to appreciate the irony of this because the WNBA is in this position specifically because they did choose to be pawns, but also they chose to use their players as pawns, right? They took this position, which is a wildly unpopular position because it is the antithesis of logic and reason. Transgender women, and I use air quotes here for a reason, are not women. We all know that. The WNBA is trying to convince people that they are the same, and that is simply not the case. So every problem that they have here is 100% their doing. They have caused this 100%. And it went so far that the WNBA then convened an emergency meeting to determine what a woman is. Now, I don't know, call me crazy, but I kind of feel like when your name is the Women's Basketball League, I kind of feel like you should already know what a woman is, right? You should already know what that is. So they convened this meeting. Now they're going to determine what a woman is when, you know, up to this point, it's always been, oh, well, if you declare that you're a woman, and no one has the right to question that. Now that these giant professional basketball player men are saying that they want to join the WNBA, now all of a sudden we need to figure out who really qualifies as a woman. And the backlash got so intense that Engelbert actually locked down her X profile so that nobody could see her tweets, nobody could reply, nobody could tag her, nothing. Now, that is a huge PR blunder. When you are having a PR crisis, the last thing that you want to do is go into hiding because A, it shows that you don't really believe whatever it is that you're claiming. It also shows that you feel like you're above your fans, your audience. You feel like they don't really get a voice, right? Like it's your way or the highway. And that's not how public relations works. Ultimately, the public is the arbiter. So let's talk about what mistakes the WNBA made in this situation. Well, like I said, public relations is about what the public thinks. Full stop. This is something I talk about all the time. You don't get to tell your audience what to think. You either align with your audience, in this case, the fans, or you pivot and you serve a different audience. This isn't 2019 anymore. Woke is dead. Did I just dead name woke? I don't know. But woke is not a thing that's playing anymore. People aren't going along with this nonsense. The problem here is that management, once they received the backlash, once everybody said, no, we don't like this, we don't agree with this, we don't want this in the league, management doubled down and essentially told their fans that they were wrong. And then when they got further backlash, they just battened up the hatches and closed up shop, right? Like I said, with Engelbert's locking down of her tweets, basically they're just deciding what they think you guys should believe. Now, I will admit that the players who spoke out in support of this nonsense probably felt forced in some capacity, and management does have the ability to kind of put the screws to them and make their life difficult if they don't play along. So I understand that. I still don't agree with it. I think you should stand for whatever it is you believe. But ultimately, this is not a good look for a league that exists solely because of charity. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm probably going to do a little bit of mansplaining here, but bear with me. So the WNBA players, for the longest time, have been crying about not making enough money. Now, I think this is a perfect example of girl math because they are 100% subsidized by the NBA. The WNBA has operated at a net loss in every single year since its inception in 1997. So we're approaching 3 decades. The league has lost an average of $10 to $15 million annually, and losses have increased to an estimated $40 to $50 million annually in recent years. Now, they already make a greater share of revenue than male players. So in reality, the WNBA players are overpaid right now. They should be making a lot less. In fact, they should probably be paying the WNBA just for the ability to play there. The reality is the population is roughly 50-50 between male and female, right? There's a slight difference, but it's within single-digit percentages. If women really wanted the WNBA to be successful, I really don't know how the fuck y'all do this with long hair. This is nuts. If the women really wanted the WNBA to succeed, they would attend the games, but they don't. So the reality is it's not going to succeed. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but how do they fix this? Well, they've created quite a conundrum. They've painted themselves into a corner, and then they shut down all discussion. So the first step here is stop arguing with your damn audience. Their opinion is the only one that matters because I will say they're the ones paying the bills. In reality, the NBA is the one paying the bills. But if people don't go and support the games, then eventually it's going to make financial sense for the NBA to just pull the plug on the WNBA, especially since now they're saying women and men are completely the same. There's no difference whatsoever, and anyone can be a woman and just join the WNBA. So if your values have shifted and they no longer align with your audience, you essentially have 2 choices. You can change back to the original values, or you can identify and market to a new audience. Now, that's kind of a problem since they haven't been able to build an audience in almost 3 decades. But the bottom line is you cannot force your views on society, and you can't force your views on your audience, right? They're going to think whatever they think, and you can't sit there and lecture to them. That just simply does not work. Society in America believes that only women should be allowed to play in women's sports. That's just a fact. Men who believe that they're women don't count. Even the NBA, or the WNBA rather, knows that. And that's why, despite claiming that a woman is simply someone who claims to be a woman, they're now scrambling to put rules in place as to what constitutes being a woman. So their entire ideology fell apart simply by using their ideology against them, their logic against them. So what do I think that the WNBA is going to do? Well, I think they'll continue to double down. I think they're going to continue trying to force this issue. I think they're going to continue pushing players into this. I think they will continue to put out their little statements that nobody agrees with. When that fails, and I promise you that it will, the WNBA's already abysmal attendance is going to plummet even further, and eventually they'll start to backpedal. Now, by then, it will already be too late. The WNBA is going to be continued to be subsidized by the NBA, but eventually they're going to have lower attendance than a high school JV football game. So things are going to fall apart, and I think that's going to be a relatively short timeline. I think within the next 12 to 24 months, that's when you'll start to see things really, really falling off. And this is a completely avoidable problem. They could have addressed this properly using the strategies that I've talked about in countless PRD episodes and other separate standalone videos as well. They chose to double down. They chose to tell their audience that they're wrong. They chose to continue to push an unpopular agenda that nobody really supports. That being said, I am 100% against men and women's sports. But at this point, fuck it. Let's go all in. And I say the more absurd, the better. I say we push it to the point where the WNBA is roughly 50-50 men and women, right? And when I say men and women, we're talking about whatever man wants to decide that he's a woman and he wants to go in and play in the WNBA, the merrier, right? Let's make it 50-50. Let's make this completely absurd. I want to see these giant, roided up, 7-foot-tall, hairy monsters with 4% body fat and bulging muscles absolutely dominating the court. And look, the truth is, your average male JV basketball player would squash professional WNBA players all day long. But let's take it all the way. Let's have giant former NBA players getting out there and just turn this into the most absurd, humorous spectacle we ever could. Now, that being said, if we're going to lean in on this, we got to get some new teams out there for the WNBA. I've come up with 5 killer teams that I would love to see. So we're going to run through these real quick. The first team is going to be the Lady Ballers. All right. Great name, the LA Lady Ballers. These characters are fucking hilarious, by the way. I love these. We've also got, it's loading a bit slow here, the Boston Ball Hogs, right? And God knows they do not share the balls. Next up, we have the Phoenix Pronouncers. Then we have the Atlanta Transformer. A little bit of Decepticon action there. I think if we're gonna call these guys the Transformers, they absolutely have to be the Decepticons. No Autobot in his right mind would chop off his catalytic converter and roll out and play basketball there. And last up, we have the Seattle Self-Identifiers. Guys, these would be the most entertaining teams the WNBA has seen in years. They would probably have more audience. They would probably have more people attending the games, watching on television, watching online, all of the above than they've ever seen. And frankly, they might even start to generate a profit and the players could start making some more money. I think this would be hilarious. I think it might actually save the WNBA, but we all know they'll never do this. They'll never implement any of my phenomenally named teams as much as I think they should. So that'll lead us into today's PR PSA, which is arguing with your audience about what they should believe is a surefire way to completely alienate them and destroy your brand. And that's exactly what the WNBA has done here. They've taken a completely illogical position. They've argued with anyone who presented any kind of pushback to that position. And then when they got further backlash as a result of that, they went ahead and went into hiding, basically thinking that this is just going to blow over and people are just going to say, oh, well, okay, well, we'll agree with you guys now. Look, you don't have a fucking audience. You don't generate a profit. And your entire strategy here is to alienate the few people that actually do watch. It's a bad move. This is one of the worst executed responses to a PR crisis that I've seen in years, and I've covered a lot of really crazy ones. The WNBA has absolutely dunked on getting this wrong, and frankly, I think it's hilarious. I think it's well-deserved, and they're going to reap the consequences of this action. We're going to get and pull this fucking wig off here because, oh my God, I don't know how you all do that with long hair. That being said, guys, hope you guys found this both useful, educational, informative, but also highly entertaining. I had a lot of fun making this one. It was a lot of entertainment back here in the last few days, putting all these pieces together. But if you guys found this useful, I'd love it if you'd share it, or even if you just think it's hilarious, share it. But beyond that, I do want to give you guys a quick heads up. I did post about the upcoming Dominate Summit, which will be held on October 9th of this year. This is the second annual event. We did one last year around the same time frame. We've got a lot of really cool things added to this. Last year, we had 3 panels, one on PR branding and marketing, one on leveraging AI, and one on mindset and overcoming adversity. This year, we have added an exciting panel on financial aspects, taxes, and raising capital. In fact, we're actually going to have Ari Page, who many of you guys have seen some of his media coverage recently. We are going to have him and his team in there taking applications where the in-person attendees will have an opportunity to get pre-qualified for up to $250,000 in business funding. So a lot of great stuff going on here. In addition to the 4 tracks, which we had 3 last year, we've got 4 now. In addition to those 4 tracks that we're going to have with panels of some of the top entrepreneurs in the country, we've also got the mentor track, which will be happening during the panels, where the in-person attendees will have the opportunity to sit down and ask questions, get personalized, tailored one-on-one advice from these entrepreneurs who have done and seen it all. And then we're also going to have the power track at the end of the event. And think of this kind of like a TEDx style quick presentation, right? They're going to get up and give a super fast 3-minute presentation sharing one powerful piece of advice. We've got a whole bunch of great entrepreneurs who are going to be sharing their advice, insight, and wisdom in the power track. It's going to be a rapid fire thing. A lot of great entrepreneurs sharing great information. Now, if you guys take what you learn in the panels and on the power track and in the mentor track and implement it in your business, you are going to be light years ahead of your competition. And we've got attendance options. You can either attend in person, you can attend virtually. And if you want to attend just watching the live stream, that's completely free. But we've also got VIP options for both the virtual and in person. Those are paid right now. They're at early bird pricing, but it will go up on the after the 31st. But these are the in-person tickets are limited. We are limited to 60 people because we've got space constraints in the building. Virtual, as many people can sign up to that as want to go. But I highly encourage you guys, grab tickets, show up out there, especially if you're local in the Tampa Bay area where you can travel and get here on October 9th, because there's so much going on, not just the information that's shared during the panels, during the mentor track, during the power track, but also there's a ton of opportunities for collaboration and great people that you're going to meet in person at the event itself as well. So definitely jump on this. I did post about it yesterday a couple of times, but if you're watching this after the fact, or if you don't see those posts, basically just go to spartanmedia.com/dominate, and you'll find all the information about the event. You'll find your different attendance options and all of that good stuff. So look forward to seeing a lot of you guys out there again. We had a completely packed room last time. So I anticipate we'll have the same this year. But just remember, if you're planning to attend in person, get your tickets early because they will sell out just like they did last year. And space is limited for the in-person attendance. So I encourage you guys to check that out. And Chris, go ahead and drop a link to the Dominate Summits page in the chat for everybody as well. All right, guys, that's going to be a wrap for today. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Thanks, everyone.